Is this the yearbook?
This is the yearbook. Oh, there's me.
When she was in her late 20s, Missy Dodds took a job teaching high school math on the Red Lake Indian Reservation in northern Minnesota.
There's the victims. Chanel, Alicia, Thurleen, Dwayne, Chase, Neva, and then Derek, our security guard. All but Derek were killed in my classroom.
15 years ago this month, a student came into her classroom armed with 2 pistols and a shotgun. He killed 9 people, including 5 students. At one point, he put a gun to Missy's face, but had run out of bullets.
When I saw who it was, I wasn't surprised. I mean, I knew then we were in trouble. I shouldn't say I wasn't surprised. I knew we were in trouble. And once he walked in like that, we were just sitting ducks. When he got to me, pointed the gun, pulled the trigger, there was nothing. By that time, law enforcement was there. They engaged with him. He came back into my room, and he picked up a gun that he had left, and he killed himself in front of all of us.
You said that when you first saw who the shooter was, you knew that you were in trouble. Why is that?
I had taught him 2 years before, and I remember just kind of walking around helping groups, and he just stopped me, and he was like, "Hey, Dodds, did you know Hitler liked math?" So I sat down beside him, and he pulled his sleeves up and showed me where he had been cutting on himself. And so I said, "Well, I'm gonna have to report this." And he said, "Yes."
When you say that you reported that incident, what do you mean?
Well, at that time, what you would do is write up probably like a concern report. I can't point a finger at a certain person or a certain point that he slipped through the cracks, but he definitely did.
Alrighty, feel free to grab your name tag.
Although the Red Lake shooting has been largely forgotten, Missy believes there are lessons to be learned from it.
And I stand here before you today as a school safety advocate because I'm a survivor of the Red Lake school shooting.
She recently told her story at a workshop about preventing mass shootings.
We're just trying to better understand the lives of these individuals so that when the next people who might perpetrate a shooting are there in front of us, we can see them and we can do something about it.
The workshop was put together by 2 researchers in Minneapolis-St, Paul who have compiled the most comprehensive database of mass shooters to date.
We do find consistently that these are suicides. They're horrific suicides that kill lots of people, and they are homicides, but typically the perpetrator, this is their final act.
Why is it significant that so many kids who go on to perpetrate school shootings are suicidal?
I mean, we have a suicide epidemic in this country right now. Our rates of suicide are higher than they've ever been. And I think we can see mass shootings as part of that.
If a student says, "I'm going to kill everybody tomorrow," it's an automatic police, big response, expel, suspend, big punitive response. If that same student said, "I'm going to kill myself tomorrow," we would respond totally differently. Yeah, that's right.
According to the data, most mass shooters go through 4 steps. They experience childhood trauma, they go through a period of crisis, they study other shooters, and they get access to firearms. The Red Lake shooter followed the pathway clearly. He had a troubled childhood. He attempted suicide and was suspended from school. He was fascinated by Columbine, and he had family members who owned guns.
I mean, I've learned over the years that we've each held little pieces about him. I held the piece that he was cutting on himself. Someone else, may have held the piece they were concerned about drawings. Somebody else may have been concerned about his writings.
This student reached out to you 2 years before he did what he did. If at that time there had been more of a coordinated team-like response within the school rather than just referring him to the next person and then letting it go, that may have changed things.
It could have. I don't know. Maybe. After something like this happens, of course, you're going to ask how could we have stopped it? And So many of the areas of school safety Red Lake had done well in. We had security officers, we had metal detectors, we had cameras, we had the layers of security as far as a fence, doors. I mean, we were good. I want the physical safety for my kids, but also equally huge as we look at our kids' mental health. And we have to start working harder.
When it comes to funding for mental health, American schools are severely inadequate. The youth suicide rate has been rising steadily in the last 2 decades. Meanwhile, only 2 states meet the recommended ratio of students to counselors. That doesn't just let violent students slip through the cracks. It also fails their victims. At Red Lake, many survivors never got any professional help. We sat down with a few of them who were in Missy Dodds' classroom that day.
Want me to read? Okay.
Steve Kobanez lost an eye and suffered brain damage from a gunshot to the face.
So after the school shooting, I was in a coma for 28 days. And after that, I was in Bemidji Hospital for 2 to 3 weeks. And after that day, I went back to school and graduated. I know, I'm proud of you for that. That took guts.
How often do you think about what happened?
Every day, every hour. Like, it's hard to sit there and wake your kids up every day saying, go to school, this is what needs to be done, you'll be okay. When you had that experience, you weren't okay at school.
My daughter's missed a lot of school, too, when she first started. It got easier. I sent her, started sending her every day. I'd call and check on her, though.
I was mad at everything. Everything was the reason or the cause for it, I felt like. That's the only thing that I did feel was the anger.
Do you ever feel anger at him?
I hated him for doing what he did, but it took me to grow up to realize that he was hurt too, why he did what he did. Like, that was his only way that he could show what he was going through. Yeah, there could have been different ways he could have dealt with it, but obviously he didn't know how, and he didn't have the help.
School shootings are extremely rare, but the things at the root of them, adolescent trauma and crisis, are not. And by treating the cause, you may wind up treating more than just one symptom.
We've interviewed some, we call them averted shooters, people that planned on doing a mass shooting and changed their mind. And if you ask them what stopped them, it's always a human connection, right? And that could stop a school shooting. It could also stop a suicide, right? It could also stop a drug overdose. I think you don't know what you're preventing. You're acknowledging that you have a kid in crisis that you need to get involved with.
Okay, what does your sentence say? Did you put a period?
I will try my best.
Good.
Since you went through what you went through, you have started doing a lot of work related to this issue. As a volunteer, as a public speaker, what motivates you to do that?
I had 3 little kids. And I don't want them to go through what I went through. Another reason, all I ever wanted to be my whole life was a teacher. I love it. I love teaching. And that part of me died that day. I don't think I'll ever be able to go in front of a classroom of kids again.